delighted to hear from Chairman Smith that his remarks about how ITER and investments in fusion research can get us to an energy source that is carbon neutral. And that, Chairman Smith, could really change the debate in this town and make moot a lot of the back and forth about fossil fuels versus other sources of energy. I mean, and I'm a big believer in the renewables, but an investment in something like this, I think, could render many of these debates moot, and I think we would both embrace that if we could get to that point. And so my question first for Dr. Sauthoff is, I've been told that a significant portion of the U.S. contribution to ITER can be decoupled from the international schedule almost entirely, and that we have the opportunity to reduce the total cost to our taxpayers if we simply focus more attention and resources on those components in the near term. So I guess first, is this true?
Yes, it is true. Roughly two-thirds of our scope is aimed at coming up with the first configuration of the machine, which is the core tokamak, and that is what is sometimes called the first plasma configuration. It is what you need to demonstrate that the tokamak itself works. It is roughly two-thirds of our scope. We know what we have to build well enough that we can proceed to fabricate at acceptable risk. And if we were to proceed on an optimal profile, we think we could probably reduce that cost from $3.9 billion to about $3.4, saving about $500 million.
And also, Dr. Iotti, any thoughts on whether an accelerated contribution could work?
Clearly, contribution will lower the cost. I think what Dr. Sauthoff said is absolutely right. The other thing that, though he did not add, is I happen to know that in his own estimate he has a large amount of contingency, something of the order of, I think it's close to $900 million. If you accelerate, you retire some of that contingency. My experience in large projects is the sooner you finish, the less risks you incur of changes, and that also saves some of that money that would otherwise go to pay for that risk. So the overall saving, in my opinion, would be larger than the $500 million, and may be close to three-quarters of it.
Thank you, Dr. Iotti. And Dr. Dehmer, speaking of contributions, I did mention in my opening statement the $225 million U.S. cap. And was I correct in describing this as an arbitrary level that the administration decided what would be politically palatable, or is this something that was arrived at from a bottom-up project estimate that minimizes the total cost for U.S. taxpayers and our contribution to ITER?
It was not a bottoms-up, as you say, but it was also not arbitrary. Let me give you the context that we were living in when we made that decision. At the time, the Department, and as now, the Department leadership was very supportive of the Joint Implementing Agreement for ITER. But we were having requests from the project upwards of $350 million a year. The project had no international baseline. It had no U.S. baseline, no cost and schedule profiles, therefore. There were rumors of very significant cost growth and schedule delay, and deliberately many of these rumors were not put in the open, were kept silent. We've heard about the management weaknesses, and we heard that improvements, very significant improvements, were needed. And all of this came against a background of sequestration and many other projects that we were trying to support at the time. Therefore, we made a decision that with no cost and schedule baselines, with significant management weaknesses, we could not provide this project with everything that it was requesting. We had to make a balance across the Office of Science, and we chose $225 million. We believed that amount would allow us to go forward and deliver what we needed to deliver so as not to delay the project, but would allow us to do other things that we needed to do in the Office of Science.
Thank you, Dr. Dehmer. And knowing what we know now, listening to the testimony of the witnesses, and that by and large much of sequestration has been rolled back, do you anticipate that the next recommendation for funding will increase beyond today?
We're in negotiations on that now, and so I can't talk about that. What I definitely want to say that we're looking forward to the June 2015 baseline exercise from the international organization.
Thank you, Dr. Dehmer. Thank you, Chair, and yield back the balance of my time.